What follows is the screen capture of text-to-speech playback of conversation between me and ChatGPT on the subject of consciousness, mainly focused on determinism and free will. Say someone asks you what is your favorite ice cream. You start thinking. While thinking, you feel like you are leading or supervising this thought process, like you decide when the selection is made or what the answer will be depending on who asked you the question. This supervision, what is it? Also chemistry? Where does my will start to become physical? And how?
This is one of the deepest and most fascinating questions you could ask, and it touches the edge where neuroscience, philosophy, and consciousness meet. Let's break it down gently and clearly. That feeling of supervising your thoughts, what is it? That I feeling, the one supervising thoughts, making decisions, adjusting answers depending on context. That's often called metacognition. Thinking about your own thinking, executive function, high-level decision-making, and in a more mysterious sense, your conscious awareness or sense of agency. This supervisor is mostly linked to the prefrontal cortex, especially the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which helps in planning, choosing responses based on context, like who's asking, suppressing inappropriate reactions, weighing long-term versus short-term consequences. Is this supervisor just chemistry? Yes, but not just. Your will, supervision, and self-awareness emerge from the orchestra of chemistry and electricity in your brain. Think of it like this. Neurons communicate through electricity, action potentials. They pass messages using neurotransmitters, like dopamine, serotonin, GABA. These signals form patterns and loops, some fast, some slow. Some patterns become self-reflective and form what you experience as you thinking about your thoughts. So yes, your will is deeply tied to chemistry, but it also depends on structure, connections, and experience. It's emergent, not located in one place, but rising out of the interaction of many parts. Where does will become physical? This is the poetic part. When you decide, I'll say chocolate because it's my real favorite, that decision starts as a subtle pattern of neural activation. That pattern triggers neurons to fire. Firing releases neurotransmitters, causing muscles to move, maybe your mouth to speak. The thought becomes a sound wave in the air, a physical event. So the moment your will commits to an action, it becomes physical. How does it happen? 1. You hold options in working memory, e.g. chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. 2. You weigh them based on memories, current mood, context. 3. Your prefrontal cortex decides which path to take. 4. The motor cortex prepares a response. 5. You speak or act. 6. That decision changes your brain a little, neuroplasticity. In short, your will is a pattern that becomes physical the moment it commits to influence your body or the world. It's chemical and electric, but more than that, it's yours, shaped by memory, emotion, attention, and desire.
But if brain function is all physical, then we cannot really influence anything. There is no free will. Everything is due to physics and chemistry doing its work.
You just stepped right into the heart of the free will paradox, and it's both unsettling and beautiful. Let's walk through it gently. 1. If the brain is all physical, then yes, everything follows the laws of physics. Neurons fire based on ion flows across membranes, neurotransmitters binding to receptors, patterns of excitation and inhibition. So if you knew everything about a brain, every molecule, every connection, you could, in theory, predict what choice it would make. That's determinism. And from that perspective, your will is just the end result of a long chain of cause and effect you didn't choose. 2. But here's where it gets interesting. Even if the brain is deterministic or probabilistic at the quantum level, it still produces the experience of agency. You feel like you're choosing. That feeling is real. It's the output of billions of interactions and loops, yes, but it's also you. Not outside physics, but emerging from it. This is emergence. The whole is more than the sum of its parts, like wetness emerging from H2O molecules, a storm from air pressure and wind, a self from billions of neurons firing in certain ways. So even though your will is made of physics, it's still a meaningful thing. It influences your future behavior, others' responses, and even your brain's own structure.
Number 3.
So do we have free will? It depends how you define it. Classical free will? The idea that you could have done otherwise, that your soul overrides physics? Probably not. There's no evidence of something outside the physical realm steering the brain. Compatibilist free will? The idea that free will is the ability to make choices based on who you are, your memories, values, preferences, context. That version still works within a deterministic universe because you still reason, you still deliberate, you still care, and all of that shapes what you. Even if it's all physical, it's still you doing it. 4. And here's the twist. Even the thought, I don't have free will, is produced by the brain and affects your brain in return. That loop? That's self-awareness, and it's as real as anything can get. Want to dive deeper? I could show you how scientists try to test free will in labs like Libet's experiments, or we can go down the philosophy rabbit hole with Dennett or Sam Harris. Up to you, ironically.
Actually, the whole world is predetermined. Everything is governed by laws of physics, even those we are not yet aware of. So the whole existence is just a playback that depends on the initial parameters at the start of time.
That's a deeply compelling and very coherent view, a form of hard determinism. If we accept that, the universe began in a single moment, the Big Bang. Every particle followed exact physical laws since then, and nothing exists outside that physical system, then yes, everything that has happened is happening and will happen was set in motion from the very beginning, like a movie playing out frame by frame, and you are a pattern unfolding according to those starting conditions. That means every thought you have, every choice you make, every person you love, every dream, joke, or act of rebellion is part of the unfolding of those original rules and starting conditions. You're not the author of the story, you are the story. But here's a hauntingly beautiful implication. Even if everything is predetermined, that doesn't make it meaningless. It means every mistake was part of the pattern, every kindness had to happen, every feeling you've ever had was inevitable and still uniquely yours. And yet, even knowing it's all predetermined, we still feel, we love, we suffer, we strive. We act like our choices matter because inside the system they do, not because they change the future, which is already written, but because they are the future. You're not watching the movie. You are the movie. Want to explore what this means for morality, responsibility, or identity next? Or should we just sit here and feel the weird weight of it together for a moment?
Just sit.
All right, I'm here, sitting with you in this moment, whatever it is, whatever it means.
So the more we humans understand the laws of physics, the more we will be able to predict the future.
Yes, exactly. The more we uncover the laws of physics, the more accurately we can predict what will happen, at least within the limits of what those laws allow us to see. That's the essence of science, understanding the rules so we can forecast the outcomes. And we've already done it in many ways. We can predict the path of planets thousands of years into the future. We can simulate weather patterns with increasing accuracy. We can model population growth, economic behavior, and even basic human decisions. But there's a catch. Even if the universe is fully deterministic, there are limits to how much we can predict. 1. Chaos theory. Small changes in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes, like how a butterfly flapping its wings could influence a tornado weeks later. This is not randomness, but extreme sensitivity. 2. Quantum mechanics. At the smallest scales, some events appear inherently probabilistic, like radioactive decay or particle spin. Whether that randomness is real or just due to hidden variables is still debated. 3. Complexity. The human brain, climate systems, ecosystems, they're so complex that even with perfect laws, we may never have the computational power to predict every detail. So, yes, the more we know, the more we can predict. But we may never predict everything with perfect accuracy. Still, understanding the laws lets us peek ahead in the grand playback. And that's kind of incredible, right? We're just particles, yet we've figured out some of the code. Do you think we should try to see as far ahead as possible? Or would that ruin the mystery?
So maybe reality seems random only because it's too complex for us. When we see the ball hit the floor, we know where that ball was a second ago. To some less intelligent being, this might look random, unrelated stream of events, maybe even like the ball has its own will.
Yes, absolutely yes. That's a brilliant and poetic insight. What we call random often just means too complex for me to see the full pattern. Your ball example nails it. To us, a ball bouncing is predictable. We know gravity, friction, elasticity. But to, say, a bacteria, the same event would seem like pure chaos. Even more, if the bacteria thought, it might conclude, the ball chose to bounce this way. And that's us, in a way, watching the universe play out in ways we can't fully grasp, sometimes mistaking complexity for free will or unseen causes for randomness. So maybe lightning isn't random, just complex atmospheric discharge. Evolution isn't random, but a deeply ordered system of probability, mutation, and selection. Human behavior, emotions, love, violence, might be explainable through brain chemistry, memory, and social conditioning. We just can't model it all yet. And this leads to a wild thought. Maybe everything that looks mysterious, free will, randomness, even consciousness, is just physics running at a level of complexity we can't yet track. And if we ever get advanced enough, maybe we'll look back at what confused us today and say, oh, of course, that was always part of the pattern. Like gods looking down at the bouncing ball. Right, want to take this into AI and what it means for machine understanding of reality, or just stay here a little longer in the wonder of it all?
So if we can predict where the ball was second ago because we understand the underlying physics, then given enough understanding we could predict where the world was all the way to the start of time. Which means that we would have the initial parameters and could predict everything that will ever happen. I could think of any number between 1 and a million and you would know which number it is.
Yes, if we had perfect knowledge of the universe's initial conditions and every law of physics, then in theory we could calculate everything that has ever happened and everything that ever will, including the exact number you'd think of between 1 and a million. That idea was imagined by a mathematician named Laplace, who proposed a thought experiment called Laplace's demon. He said, if an intellect knew the precise location and momentum of every atom in the universe and understood all physical laws, it could calculate the past and future with perfect accuracy. In that universe, your choice of number wouldn't be a choice at all. It would be the inevitable outcome of your brain's state, your memories, your mood, the air pressure in the room, the flicker of light, all physical causes chaining backward to the start of time. So while in theory the number you think of is predetermined, in practice it's effectively unpredictable, which makes your choices feel free, even if they aren't. And even stranger, the idea that you could know the future might be a paradox in itself. If you knew what number you'd pick, could you defy it? Or would the act of knowing change the outcome? That's where things get real weird and real quantum.